p.m.
Okay, good evening, Town Council. Good evening to those of you listening or watching. I want to call to order the May 9th, 2022 Harpers Ferry Regular Town Council meeting to order. All members of the council are present, physically present, with the exception of Jim Jenkins and Kevin Carden. Are either of them online, do we know?
No.
Okay, so let the record reflect that Mr. Jenkins and Mr. Carden are absent on this meeting. Christian, would you do the obligatory reading, please?
Yes, until further notice, the corporation of Harpers Ferry governing and deliberative bodies will hold meetings and/or hearings virtually through Zoom, which provides for public participation during a public comment period when applicable and when posted on the agenda. Alternatively, the public may watch meetings by YouTube or listen by telephone. These options comply with the Open Governmental Meetings Act.
Okay, thank you, Christian. Are there any additions, deletions, modifications to the agenda? Chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as is. We have a motion from Chris. Do I have a second on the motion? Second from Christian. Discussion on the motion to approve the agenda. Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
I understand we have a public comment on agenda items. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes.
Should let her in
Does Andrew take it right up here?
now. Chrissy, we have you connected. You'll have to unmute and get your audio one.
Sorry, did you want me to go now?
Yes, I'm recognizing you for your public comment on agenda items for 3 minutes. Go ahead.
So I apologize. My public comment was not on agenda items. It was on an item not on the agenda. So if you would rather me hold it, I can hold it. If you'd like me to
You
proceed.
have- If you, yeah, we're only taking them on agenda items. I don't want to set a precedent here, moving off of what is established town policy. So please feel free to send concerns or comment to me directly at the mayor's office or to any member or all members of the town council.
Okay, I apologize. I was just
That's
updating
okay, that's quite all right.
one of your previous actions. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Chrissy. Who was that?
Her name is
Chrissy Weimer.
Weimer, W-E-I, I suppose.
Excuse me, mayor's announcements. I have a few. I just want to report on May 18th, the Jefferson County Tourism Summit. The annual summit is being held at the Bavarian, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. that day. This is an opportunity for Harpers Ferry to be well represented. As of right now, myself, Storm, Christian, and Chris are scheduled. Any other member of the council, feel free to let Debbie know and we can get you signed up. This, I think, is an important opportunity for us, particularly since Harpers Ferry serves as West Virginia's principal tourist destination. So I think that we are well represented with the four of us, and I'm looking forward to the events of May 18. I want to remind everyone also that the office is closed tomorrow. It is election day. The Corporation of Harpers Ferry abides by the state holidays, and it is a state holiday tomorrow, so we honor that with the office closed. Only essential employees will be at work, and the essential employees are defined as Harpers Ferry police officers and our 2 Class 2 operators making water at the water plant. All other employees enjoy the day off. Last week, I had the honor, the pleasure to go through the hotel demolition site. I had a very good tour of that. The hotel is totally gone. The only thing remaining at the site is the original annex. The additions on the annex that were put in, sometime later, really scabbed onto the original, they're gone. When I was there, there were several structural engineers going through the annex, ensuring that, if anything needs to be done to secure the annex or to further whatever structural engineers will come up with, if anything. It was a very good visit. I'll also say that I was impressed with everything that Swan has done regarding reclaiming and recycling everything from that site. Very little, only debris that could not be recycled or reclaimed was disposed of. The rest of it is, they did a remarkable job in removing all of the materials to different recycling areas. They have 2 or 3 large piles of dirt and stone there. And by stone, I don't mean little rocks. I mean substantial rocks. If you can remember the outside of the hotel, it was rocked where they had, in place. They have piles of those with the stone. And there are 2 stonemasons up there that are meticulously going through those piles. And then they are putting the stone on pallets. And then they surround the pallet with a wire mesh, and it goes up about 4 or 5 feet. So if you can imagine a regular sized pallet that goes 4 feet in the air, and then they have all of the stone, and then they mark the pallet where the stone came from, what portion of the building, whether it's north, south, east, west, first floor, second floor, or whatever. And then they are placed strategically on site there. And so that when they get to that point at the hotel, they will then be able to go to that site and pull out pallet number 32 or whatever it is. And so it's all laid out. When I was there, I think they were up to about 100, and I would say 175 pallets already set aside. And they still probably had, I think Laurel said maybe 50 or 75. I could be mistaken on that. But a significant number left. And it was just incredible to watch the pains that they are going through to reuse and repurpose that stone for the new hotel. So I thought you'll all be interested in that.
Well, that's amazing, because it said that the stone of that version carried through to the prior versions. So you
Yeah,
could say the DNA of the original hotel will still be with the
Right.
hotel.
and they meticulously go through and they look for cornerstones, which have 2 flat edges, and they set them aside. So they're doing a remarkable job up there. And the other thing is, which is maybe of interest if you have the opportunity, on June 24th at 2 p.m., there will be a Celtic wedding that will take place in Harpers Ferry. And I did not know this, but evidently it's a tradition at these weddings that it is led by a bagpipe, and then they march to the church. So the Celtic wedding party, which will probably end up being 10 or 12 people, will begin at the intersection of Church Street and High, or Church and Washington. They will follow the bagpiper down to the stone steps right across from Hog Alley, and then I guess the bagpiper will have to debag, because I don't think he or she can walk up the steps to the Catholic Church, and then the wedding will be there.
Come
So,
on, the Highlands, that was steep territory.
well, they do. Well, we'll make them pipe going all the way up. So, that's kind of a neat thing. I talked with Chief Brown about it, and he's going to escort the wedding party. So it'll be a nice send-off to this young couple who will probably remember this for the rest of their life. So I just thought it was a nice thing to do. That's all the comments that I had. Anybody want to make any comments or anything? Okay. Okay, approval of minutes. We did not get those, correct?
I didn't see him.
Yeah. Okay, so that's easy. Treasurer's report.
Okay,
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council. The financial reports you have this evening are for the end of March 2022, which is 3/4 of the way, or 75% of our fiscal year 2022. This general fund income less our carry forward amount of $1,094,000 is $1,160,757,000. The operating income of $812,894 as of the end of March represents 70% of our budget for the year. From a glance at B&O municipal and room occupancy tax receipts in April for the third quarter of FY '22, it appears this income percentage will rise comfortably in the June report for April revenue received. Our operating expenses are at approximately 58% of budgeted for the year. We will be looking at making a revision for fiscal '22 and '23 in the general fund in the coming weeks as we come to the close of those years. For waterworks, our financials include the purchase and installation of the early warning detection system, as well as the reimbursement for this granted expense, which we have been waiting for. So that is finally in there. Actual income does not include line 481 reimbursements of $97,228, which includes the soft cost reimbursement from our loan. That was an anticipated need for the sludge removal project, as well as cash flow for the second tranche of ARPA monies due to arrive this summer. So this, along with the ARPA money and 421A, were intended to fund Elks Run main replacement, making adjustments to those unrealized items. Our revenue is 63.5% of budgeted revenue. Line 461, customer billings is reported at 62.7%, and that is still lower than we would like to see. So Charlie at Cox Holiday and I have analyzed the income data from the past 3 years and compared it to this year thus far. The revenue trend in general appears to be congruent with past years. It is still possible that this revenue number will increase closer to our expectation as we come into the warmer months where water is consumed in a greater amount. However, we would just prefer to be conservative in planning. So we're going to pull back that revenue number in the fiscal '22 revision, as well as fiscal '23 budget that will be coming to the Water Commission, the Town Council for approval in the next few weeks. Our operating expenses on the waterworks side are 61.5% of budget. Questions?
Is, on the expense side, is that also consistent with prior years?
Well, I can't say that I actually examined that too thoroughly.
What was the question,
I
Stu?
don't have.
Oh, just, so the revenues were a little lower than hoped, but were consistent with prior years, and was wondering if it was the same for the expenses.
Right. I didn't dive into that too much because we were more concerned about making sure with the price change that we have that target rate, which we hit so perfectly at the end of fiscal year last year, but we hadn't gone through a winter with those numbers. So again, when you go back and you look at the curve, the trend over the fiscal year, you can almost lay them right on top of each other. So I feel like we're making a good path and there's not any funky dips or spikes. But still, we just want to pull it back to make sure that we're conservative and not over forecasting.
Yeah, I do think we're going to hit our number, confident, our budget number. Though I look at our top 3 expense revenue streams, business and occupancy tax is right at 75%. That's one of our big numbers. The other is sales tax revenue is at 83%. Really strong number. The one that I kind of, because I'm on the chair for parking, that's the third one. We're only at 63%. We did look at our April numbers. I have the numbers through yesterday, so I have them on very good numbers. We went up a lot in April. But we need a strong 3 months to hit this budget number.
Is that tracking, again?
What, I'm just a little confused. What I was talking about that I examined was the water revenue for customer billing.
Yeah.
I agree with you on the general fund side that when we look at the April numbers that have come in, we're gonna be over and we'll have a nice number to adjust to.
I was just talking about just the parking.
Oh, parking.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
as far as that
Parking,
goes.
I think we're gonna lag it a little bit, that's all I'm saying.
Yes, I think we will lag it a little bit.
I'm just, it's so weather related. Like I can tell you this past weekend was our worst weekend for the last 6 weeks.
Oh, what was a washout?
Yeah, so it's all dependent on the weather,
Yes.
and, so if we have some good weather next quarter, we may hit our numbers.
And did you look at year over year, like, is it off from the first quarter of last year?
It's all.
And also, I think that, that was a big boom for us during COVID. That was hard to adjust to predict it, so we might have more realistic numbers that way now.
Yep.
But the buses weren't as active, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
We fell, we were a little lower from our, December numbers on, we picked up April pretty strongly, and I assume we'll get a strong May and June, but I don't think it's gonna be enough to cover for those poor months back in the winter. So, but it's strong.
It's
Oh,
a
yeah.
very strong.
All right, solid.
Yeah, no.
Last year was exceptional.
Right,
Yes.
exactly.
Any other questions for Debbie on the
Well,
financial?
back on the water, you talked about the cutback in the budget to adjust for the lower than expected income. I mean, we've had quite a few kind of last minute, some of them emergency related expenses. Do we think there's gonna be issues
No,
meeting?
I don't think there's gonna be issues.
Okay.
And you're right, this year and next year are real aberrations especially when they come to costs for our water department. Once we get the new system in place and it's operating, we'll start to understand what our ongoing expenses are. And as I've worked into the revision for 22 and starting out with our first iteration of 23, I've really packed that heavy so we're prepared. When we get on the other side of that, we'll take a couple of months, see how it's smoothing out, and then we'll make another prediction and find that we have enough in there due to that nice interest rate that we got. There's enough cushion in there but we don't. So we're not gonna be able to probably sock away as much as we would like to have in this particular year for that because of what we're dealing with. But then we're gonna work on a target number for that as we move forward.
Is it fair to say in general, both for waterworks and for general fund, it's the case that right now we do have some one-time extraordinary expenses to clear out backlogs, but that these are not things that are going to be carried forward year to year for the most part?
Certainly the case in the water.
Super.
I have another question about the water revenues. You were saying that you and the accountant looked at historic revenues to see. Did you look at, was there any other fine tuning, like looking at, we have like 3 classes, residential, government, and commercial?
So I did a really deep dive in that. I looked at adjustments that were made in those years. I looked at special charges that were made. I looked at a bunch of different categories that mostly had to do with the billing overall. Charlie and I were satisfied with the curve that we got, and looking at where we were in April, that we thought, let's just see where it really does settle out in April before I dive into pulling apart residential, commercial, and so if we don't feel like we're starting to move in the right direction the next month, then yeah, I'm gonna tear that apart. But it took quite some time to do that, and so we both felt comfortable that we weren't in any danger things that we really couldn't explain.
Okay,
So,
because, the government, I think that they have been slow in returning to work.
yes,
And there could have been a loss of income there.
yeah, it's
because of
possible. And there were also some unusual things that happened over the past year or two that had to do with some billing issues with them too, but taking all that into consideration, we were able to pinpoint those and they weren't trends. We felt comfortable with what we saw at the moment, but we have that on our radar that if we're not comfortable now going forward, I'm gonna dig into that next section.
Great. So you're poised
Thank you.
to find out
Yes.
why, if necessary.
Yes.
Okay, any other comments on the financials? Like a motion to approve the financials?
I move to approve the financial reports through March 2022.
Thank you. I have a second. We have a second from Chris. Any discussion on the motion to approve the financials as reported by the financial officer? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion? Okay, Debbie?
So next is your items for purchase over, the purchasing threshold, which is on the chart there. Any questions on any of those invoices?
Christian's gonna,
I move to approve the purchases as presented through March.
Yeah, it was for, actually, let me just, I can't remember anymore. And what's these for? These were things that actually occurred in, March and April.
March and
Yeah.
April. I move to approve the invoices and purchases over the purchasing threshold through April.
okay, thank you. A second on the motion, second from Chris. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all. Thank you. Anything else, Debbie?
No, everything else can wait till we
Okay.
get there.
Police department, is the chief online?
Chief, we've got you connected, you have to unmute.
Good evening, Ken. Are you ready for me, Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead, chief.
Go for it.
Good evening, council. Just want to give the report for April 2022. We had 0 accidents, had 7 call-outs, 7 assists, or correction, I apologize. 7 assists, no call-outs. And we had 37 citations, and we had 87 incidents. The assists that we had were 6 with the county and 1 with Charlestown Police Department. Other than that, I tried to reach the mayor yesterday to advise him of the barge that had broken loose upriver and came up or downstream towards Harpers Ferry. We did get a assist call with that to assist Washington County and the Park Service to clear the bridge with that incident. One of the barges, I believe, got hung up prior to getting to Harpers Ferry. So if we didn't have too much to do, we stood there and secured that area for over an hour. But like I said, the barge broke loose upstream and it was floating towards, made it through Shepherdstown and was floating towards Harpers Ferry. There was no damage done other than breaking loose, and now it's hung up, but still upstream a little bit, I believe. The water is receding, so I guess it's lodged upstream a little bit. Other than that, I've been continuing to meet with the mayor. Things have been going well with everything and reporting things. I believe the communication is very well with the mayor and I. We try to keep an open dialogue and trying to get things accomplished for the town and moving forward. We've had no incidents with the Hilltop. Of course, their demo's done. That went well with everything that they were supposed to do. So other than that, I believe that's it. Any questions or concerns that you would like to address with me?
Chief, I'm looking at your April police report, and I know all of these categories, but 2. I'm not sure I know what directed patrol and out of car. What do those incidents mean?
So directive patrol means we're just focusing on a particular street or area that we're just policing. So we'll start a directive patrol incident just so you'll know we're focusing on a particular area. So that's what a directive patrol is. When you see that, we're just focusing on, like, it could be Hall Galley or High Street, Washington Street, Fillmore, and what the officers do is they're focused in on that area, so they'll put a directive patrol because they were there for an extended period of time.
Okay, I got it. What's the out of car?
Out of the car is just basically they're marking out of the car somewhere, and they're just letting dispatch know that they're away from their vehicle.
Okay.
And if there's going to be a delay. Also,
Okay.
I forgot to mention, we did have another major incident back on the 14th. One of our officers did another great thing in making our community safe. And I think once everything is cleared up through the courts and all, there'll be a significant outcome of that everybody will be pleased with once I can report about it.
Good. Any questions for the chief?
Hey, Chief, it's Storm. I have a barge-related question. Do the police have access to the key to the gate at Potomac Street?
So yes, they're assigned to officers and myself, and I have one in the office, but and the fire department has one, and the Park Service has a key to it. Are you asking for a key, or do you have
No, I
access?
do not want a key. No, thank you, Chief.
So if you need access to grab a key out of the key box, we do have a spare one down in our office that Marissa can get to you, and you can turn it back in once you're done with it. But we didn't want a lot of keys and people making copies of those keys, because then we wouldn't have control of the access. But you're more than welcome, if you need to get down on Potomac Street Extended for something, to come by the office and sign a key out and return it once you're done with it.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, chief. Have a good night, chief.
Thank you.
Ordinance compliance officer, you have his report here. Yeah. The only thing I'll say is that the new ordinance that we have, vacant and uninhabitable structures, it calls for a vacant and uninhabitable structures oversight board. I'm in the process of putting that together. There are there will be there'll be 3 voting members and 2 non-voting members. The members I have so far are the code officer, I have the executive director of the health department, and I'm waiting to hear from next door from the fire chief. And then there'll be an appointment of 2 residents that will be put on this board. Once the board is fully established, then they can pursue the issues that are assigned to the registry board in that new ordinance. I know that Kevin is working very hard with a lot of permits that are coming his way all of a sudden, and I think both of you from landmarks and planning are also heavily involved, as is BZA. So this is a busy time of the year, obviously, in the springtime for projects requiring permits. Anyway, I digress.
A quick question about that. When that board makes its ruling, can action be taken at that point, or does it depend on what the action proposed is? Or are there things that would need to come before council?
No, it rests with the registry board.
Okay.
They assess the fee, they collect the fee. If need be, then it goes to circuit court. All of the details outlined in the ordinance. And it purposely stays away from the political body.
Great.
Was somebody,
That's good.
oh,
Good.
oh,
Positive comment.
oh, okay.
You can't tell under the mask. I was smiling.
I can tell.
I was excited here for something, I'm not sure.
Had excited babble going on.
Yeah.
Well,
These are something we don't have to do.
yeah. Well, just hold your breath, Christian,
Uh-oh.
because it's up to you right now with Budget and Finance Committee report.
Okay, all right. Well, first, let me just talk about a couple general things. We had our meeting, Budget and Finance met, and a special meeting on May 4th. And Deb updated us on the general fund for fiscal 22 and 23 a little bit. And we do want to point out some of the top priorities that may not have been funded, but we're going to work on that, okay? And they are the Waterworks infrastructure administrator position, the comprehensive plan assistance planning, and the engineering assessment of town hall. So these are the 3 biggies that we're going to be looking at over the next few months. Okay? So the other is just talking a little bit about ARPA funds. I'm sure maybe somebody might bring that up with you, what's happening with our ARPA funds. Now, just so you're all aware, ARPA funds are obligated to the Elks Run water main project. We put we've already put our money, the first tranche has already been received, the second tranche will be coming in this summer. But it's all, again, earmarked for waterworks. so.
But let's not confuse, there are two ARPA monies. We got the one from the county.
Well, we don't have anything.
Well, I mean, the county has, they are in the process of allocating.
Harper's Ferry.
Right,
This is,
ARPA money.
right, this is,
The funds
we
we
got
have been
it again.
assigned.
we got, that's right, based on population, correct?
correct.
This has nothing to do with the one that the county is allocating.
No.
Right, that we submitted a significant request for.
Correct.
I'm sorry, Christian, go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I'm glad you brought it up, because there is a distinction.
Right.
And we're hoping that other things, good things may happen in the, year or so. So, a lot of hanging things out there, and we'll know more about it in the future. So let's go to the first item, discussion action, funding, regarding funding for the Music on the Ridge for 2022. This will be a real music festival. We haven't done it in the last couple of years due to COVID. So this will be what they call, Pat Morris is getting it up. This is a lower profile, soft opening version of the event. And it'll be held on June 4th. Appreciate it. So, I mean, I can go right, I don't know if we should talk about it a bit more, or I just go right into doing the motion.
Well, let's talk about, have all the, have all the issues been resolved on this, like making sure that we have police been notified, parking, rest?
There are two open issues having to do with legal and with insurance.
Right.
So we had a good discussion about the event, and they did describe the event in great detail. It's not clear because part of the event is going to be held on private property. If any particular form of waiver or permission is required, basically if an incident takes place on public property, what will happen? And what is our obligation? What would be a proper release? It did not sound like this is something that had been done in the past. And again, having run events of this nature before, I feel it's important to get a handle on that. And the other one is insurance, for the same reason, that if part of the event is being held on private property, will the town's insurance cover it? Will it require a rider? So, and I believe Pat, I'm not sure if Pat was gonna look into that or if that was on us, but I think,
We're gonna look into it in the office.
great. So that was the last kind of.
Okay. Was it discussed regarding notification of neighbors, boundaries of the event, police coordination? If there's fees being collected, make sure that we have a bonded employee collecting the fees.
I would say, yes, all of that was discussed.
Okay.
Not about bonding, a bonded employee, but that could be something we could put in
They
motion.
will be bonded. We are ready for that.
Great, so there'll be a count in of the number of wristbands and a count out matching with cash and an accounting of that.
Okay, great. All right. Okay, now,
Okay, and I do have see, we're working from, our meeting was so recent that I'm looking at draft minutes, and so I may have to confer with the balance of the Budget and Finance Committee. Regarding the dollar amount, so we had, it was $2,250 for the whole event?
No,
Or
that's,
was
it's,
each thing, because you have it on here, it's like,
it was an equal amount
Okay.
from both 906 and
All right.
from. sources.
okay, so let me go here and we'll discuss this. So I'm putting a motion out I move that we approve $2,250 from account number 906 Arts and Humanities and $2,250 from the 402 Economic Development to hold the Music on the Ridge on June 4th, 2022, pending legal and insurance review.
One thing, up to that amount, because as discussed,
Up to, yes, okay, up to
I'm sorry, was it 2250
2250,
on each?
up to 2250 from 906 and up to 2250 from 402.
okay, second on the motion.
Second.
We have a second from Storm. Any discussion on the motion to approve 2250 out of 906, 22 up to 2250 out of 904, 402.
And just, so you know, this is traditionally the way we've done it. We've split it between the two.
And is the bulk of the money going to the bands, or what are we
It's-
paying for?
Well, this is where the split is. They actually don't believe they're gonna spend the full amount of the 2250 that we've slated for the bands. They're expecting to have lower profile acts than they had in prior years. And then the other half is for the more mechanical parts. So for the sound reinforcement, for
Fencing.
the trash cans, just all the other stuff. So that's how it's split out, the way they presented it.
It's gonna be 4 bands.
And it'll be acoustic in nature. This is one of the questions, is that it's difficult to do a 4-act evening without it becoming a slog, but there'll be acoustic bands, so it'll be easy to get them on and off the stage.
Got it, okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Okay, great.
Okay.
All right,
next-
Christian.
Next one, discussion and action regarding landscaping proposals for town parks. Okay, let me get organized here. Okay, so I'm trying to get organized. Okay, so, all right. So the town parks, Patty Morris is heading this up. She has been working hard on this and had a landscaper come out and had some discussions. And so this proposal is actually for 3 parks. This is the park, the town park right here next to Town Hall, Lewiston Women's Club Park, the Pavilion Park, and then the
Gazebo part.
gazebo park, or the gazebo park pavilion, and the third park,
Street.
Potomac Street. There you go. So that's the 3 parks. And this is really to clean up the parks. We're gonna give the number as one number tonight on the motion, but it's really 3 different numbers for each park. The reason we're doing that is that way we can account for the money. I can do the motion that way as well for park, but I think,
I think it's,
as presented. Okay. All right, here we go. So I move to approve up to $10,000 from, what was, 906, Arts and Humanities, for beautification, to landscape town parks, as submitted.
Wait. 906, 10 grand. Okay, so we have a motion by Christian, we have a second by Storm to approve 10K out of 906 for gazebo park
Franklin.
and Potomac Street, not the Children's Park.
No.
Okay, and
Right.
Potomac Street,
they cannot get a bid on the children's.
okay.
And
And we couldn't get the stairway either.
Yeah,
Couldn't do that.
yeah, that's gonna happen, we're
Or the
gonna,
electrical box.
Yeah, I got some ideas.
yeah.
And just to clarify, Potomac Street, are we talking about the little, at the roundabout?
Yes. that's-
Around the
And
benches,
the,
it's
and
become.
the tables.
And had talked to someone from the tree committee recently who was wondering about that. So I'd just like to comment that maybe the tree committee would be good to involve in that, have some ideas.
Sure.
The landscaper mentioned Craig Burtles down there, but I'm sure they'll take my input.
Okay, any other discussion on the motion? All those in motion? All those in motion.
Motion.
Motion, raise your hand. Okay.
All right,
Motion.
next, okay, discussion and action on the portal, bidding portal for Elk Run water main bid. Boy, there's been a lot of work on this. This will be our second one that we're doing with we had a meeting on May 4th. All the big parties were there to learn how to do this properly, and we brought in our attorney, Chris Eckenrode, Roy Singleton. Chris Eckenrode was there, the mayor, Adele Talley from Bid Express, Deb Kelly, a financial officer, and myself. We were all in this meeting to make this process even smoother. And so Deb has been, she has some more documents here. If you wanna-
Well, basically, our legal advisor and our engineer were pleased with what was presented as the bid has been loaded into, Bid Express with some, edits, which I worked through today. There are a few more small questions that I have for them, but the other component that was missing was that we wanted to put this in the advertisement in the paper. So you've received the ad that has been revised so that it reflects the use of Bid Express, and that is now in the hands of Mr. Shingleton and Mr. Effernan for their final review and edits.
Correct.
I move to place the Elks Run 8-inch main project out to bid on the electronic bidding portal, subject to final legal and engineering edits.
Second on the motion, second from Christian. Any discussion on the motion?
By the way, this is an important one, this is a big one, so that we get through, this is a good one, and hopefully it'll be a lot smoother sailing.
Well, as far as the electronic
Electronic
platform,
bid is
yes,
just.
so it's complicated.
The only comment I just let you know is that we, the dates that I have here, I worked out based on the calendar and timing of closing the bid and then having it open. I'm still awaiting confirmation from, Mr. Eckler, exactly when he can come and do that. So there may be adjustments with that, but I would qualify those as edits. I just want to let you know.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Okay. Christian?
Okay, so that's it, looks like that's it for me.
All right, we'll come back to you.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
All right, Water Department, Laurel?
Yes, so, at the water department, I want to just briefly mention the engineer's report for our water infrastructure project. That work is continuing on the plant and getting ready to implement the what is called the PAL membrane filter, was PALL, made by the company named PAL, which is the single biggest, I guess, improvement of that people will notice in the quality of the water, because it is a super good membrane, and it filters out some bugs that our present system cannot filter out. So we presently have to pay for testing for those bugs, and because our filter doesn't keep them out, and luckily we don't have them, but we still have to test for them. And but this membrane will keep them all out. And so that that is supposed to be implemented starting in the beginning of June, when they will start changing over from our current filter to this new membrane filter. So the main announcement, it was actually sent out in an attachment to the water bill, was that we will have to process water twice as much for double the amount of time in order to get the same amount of water that we previously get per day. And we're asking citizens to conserve water, not in any super big way, say like they do in California, but in an ordinary way of just trying not to waste water. In watering your lawn, or don't do any more than is necessary. Try to just conserve as you go. And also asking people with swimming pools to write to our water clerk, or call our water clerk and make an appointment for a day, so that everyone's not filling up their pool on the same day. Some of the things that we need to do here is we have a new leak adjustment policy, and that is that there were some changes in the PSC rules which brought about this change in leak adjustment policy that now, there are more things that that count as a leak than counted before. And that is if someone has some sort of leak in a fixture in their house, like a faucet or the toilet or some other fixture. That leak, and it produces a water bill that is more than 200, well, more than double the usual water bill. Then you can apply for a leak adjustment. There is a leak adjustment form on our website on the water page, and that can be submitted so that there can be an adjustment to your bill for that. However, leak adjustments are not given for things like for intentional use or for leaving your hose on too long or something like that. There's no leak adjustment for that because that's not really a leak. And that's one of the things I want to make a motion on, is that we accept this leak adjustments policy and post it on our website for the people of the water district.
Laurel, you're jumping ahead, correct?
Well, did you make the motion, or were you saying you were going to make the motion?
Well, you're right in that when I got this report ready, I considered all of it together instead of the way it is listed on the agenda. So let me dial back here, and because before we get to that, we do need to, I did discuss the engineer's report, so let's do the resolution, the pay application for the water treatment facility, which we do every month. And so Deb, you are the person who usually talks about that. Would you like to do
You
that?
want me to do that? Okay. So this is resolution number 14 of the town of Harper's Ferry approving invoices relating to the construction of the services for the water project and authorizing payment thereof. Whereas the town of Harper's Ferry has reviewed the invoices attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference in relation to the construction of the water project funded by the United States Department of Agriculture, and finds as follows: that none of the items for which payment is proposed have been requested from another source, that each item for which the payment is proposed to be paid is or was necessary in connection with the project and constitutes a cost of the project, that each of such costs has been otherwise properly incurred, that payment for each of the items proposed is due and owing. Now therefore be it resolved by the town of Harper's Ferry, town council of Harper's Ferry, that payment of the attached invoices as summarized below are hereby authorized and directed. Green Dobson report $19,474.82. Alvarez contractor $30,061.29 for a total of $49,536.11. Adopted by the council of Harper's Ferry at a meeting held on the 9th day of May 2022.
Okay, have a motion to approve.
Move to approve resolution number 14 and payment for pay application 13 as presented.
Okay. Do we have a second? We have a second from Chris. Discussion on the motion. Hearing no discussion, Storm, call roll call on this one because of the dollar amount.
Yes, Christian?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
Laurel?
Aye.
Mayor Long?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
Okay, thank you. I'll endorse this. Okay, Laurel?
We have to go to the engineers report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She didn't. Do we vote up? Do we have to vote on it?
No.
Oh,
No.
I was gonna comment on the engineer's report that, the picture that made me happiest was that empty waste.
Yes, oh my God, that was beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was
We're gonna see that?
Yeah, I've never been happier to see an empty pit.
Yeah, look how clean.
You don't see
Yeah.
sludge. I see no sludge.
yeah,
Green water.
it is nice.
Right, so now then 4.
Okay, so, we had a situation where a residential customer, had we believe that their, meter was broken, and the meter wasn't read every month. And then when it was read, it showed a tremendous, well, a certain amount of usage. And the question was how to bill the customer. So, per recommendation from the PSC, they recommended, although the customer had been paying the minimum fee every month, that what we could do and what they recommended was to back bill them for 3 months to at the usage of the current month. So the meter was replaced, then usage was recorded on the new meter. That usage will be used to be the usage of this month and to bill for the previous 3 months, minus what the customer already paid. And it comes up here because this is going to be a policy for every time there is a broken meter, we're voting on it this time, but in the future, this will become a standard operating policy to when there is a broken meter and several months have gone by with the customer paying the minimum charge, that we will be able to back bill for 3 months in addition to the current month, as soon as that meter is replaced and we can trust the usage reported on it.
And to reiterate, this was what was suggested by the PSC.
Yes. This was recommended, this,
I was just gonna ask how long do the meters being out, a year, or 6 months?
this particular meter was out for 22 months.
Wow.
So we've lost, I mean,
And to clarify, was it 3 months before we recognized that it was out, or 3 months that it took to repair it or replace it?
Well, it took, basically it took 22 months to replace the meter.
So the question was, now that it's known, how far back can you backfill and on what basis? And they said you can only backfill 3 months, and they said you just take the reading of the next month, and that's the amount that you backfill for the prior 3, minus what they actually paid.
Yeah, we're not gonna recover 22 months, unfortunately. I have a couple questions on this, Laura. If you're finished with your introduction.
Yes.
Could you go to the first page? I don't know what that last sentence means, so in plain English, could you interpret what the last sentence means on that first page?
The first page of what?
Policy.
Oh, the leak adjustment.
But we're not,
that's next.
that's next.
I knew that.
Testing
I'm
us.
just a mayor.
See, we're all
I haven't had-
listening.
I haven't had chocolate on my desk for a week now.
Yeah.
I
need I need a chocolate.
Well, but we are, basically, I would like to make a motion that we adopt this policy recommended by the PSC of when a customer has their meter replaced, that they get back billed for the previous 3 months minus what they paid at the rate of the new usage on the new meter as a policy, because this is recommended by the PSC.
And the customer still can appeal to the PSC, even if we approve this policy. I mean, that
Sure.
we
They
know
can-
that.
They can always do
They can
that.
always appeal whatever our policy we come up
And based on the first meter reading of the new meter,
That's what we would be using,
Yeah.
because we have no other. we
right,
have
I'm
no
just
other
making
data.
sure I'm putting it in
with. Right.
correctly.
That's correct.
Mhm.
Second?
That's right.
Okay, Laurel, so you got the motion on the floor. Do we have a second on the motion?
Second.
We have a second from Storm. Any further discussion other than the mayor's tremendous discussion point?
Well, all I was gonna say, so it sounds like the onus is on the waterworks to, they have a broken meter, they're on it. I mean,
Exactly,
right.
Yes.
exactly.
If they
We need to
see
re-
the same measurement, same number the next month, does
Well-
that mean the water meter's broken? What's a broken water meter? How do we determine that?
The no reads.
No reads, okay.
Right, I mean.
So the meter didn't move, it just,
Correct.
The meter
whatever, if it's
didn't move.
10,000 this month, it's 10,000 next month.
And it gets billed the
10,000.
minimum if it's a no read. Regardless of what.
So we just need to make sure that we get on these.
That has been
That's right. And so
heavily
there-
discussed with the superintendent.
Oh,
there's additional scrutiny on the several broken meters that we have. Of course, they all require construction, because the ones that do have this usage are the ones that have complicated construction, because they're not gonna replace it in the basement. Usually, these are very old meters. They're in people's basements, so they place them outside and they have to run the water line.
so it's
and,
complicated.
So it's complicated.
I get it,
That's right.
okay, and it may take months.
Well, no.
Well, we're
you
given
know,
30 days by
No.
PSC.
Yeah.
we simply have to.
In the winter even?
Does that make any
Well,
difference?
we have an excavator now, right?
Yes,
We do.
All right, any other discussion? We didn't vote yet.
No.
I knew that. All those in favor of the motion? Okay. All right, Laura?
Okay, so yes, could you let me see the paper? You were asking about the last sentence of the leak adjustment policy?
Yeah, go ahead and introduce the leak adjustment
Oh, okay.
thing, Laura.
So, the leak adjustment policy comes from these changes at the PSC, and of what a leak is, and also that it is not a leak unless it's more than double your historic average usage. Anything under that, it would not be considered a leak and not be considered for a leak adjustment. So I would like to make a motion that we adopt this leak adjustment policy and post it on our website on the water page.
I have a second from Chris. Any discussion? Yes, Mayor has some discussion points. Now, first page, last line, I'd like to know what that means.
The one that begins with any amounts,
Yeah, in plain English, what does that mean?
any amounts which the customer can prove did not enter the sanitary system shall be credited at full sewer tariff rates. So.
Water that hasn't gone.
Okay, so, what that means is that the sanitary system would be your drain.
I'm
So
sorry, what?
The drain, any drain in your house, because anything that goes down a drain then is in the sewer system.
Yeah, okay.
So they're saying if you can prove it did not go down the drain, for instance, a pool. People who fill their pool with water can get an adjustment on their sewer bill because that water did not go down the drain.
Or in the case of this, let's say you had a big leak and it was a burst pipe and it went all over your basement floor and it didn't go down the drain. You could prove that it didn't go down the drain and you had to take it out with a sump pump. You could come and say, I would like the sewer portion of my bill removed for X number of gallons because it did not go into the sewer system.
Second comment, Laura, that I have is, this is a policy, as I read this, it's not a standard operating procedure. Because an SOP, a standard operating procedure, they basically delineate specific responsibilities to specific classes of workers. This is just a policy. And I think that there's a lot of decision points in this policy that need to be assigned to responsible officials. And so therefore, my question is, are you going to, as a Water Commission, going to put together, and it wouldn't take much, an SOP to incorporate in this policy? Or, because this is just a policy, it's not a procedure on how you do it. We have to have an SOP to how to carry out this policy. So My recommendation is that the Water Commission come up with a recommended SOP to initiate this policy. Is that, am I making myself to the rest of?
Yeah, this is what you need to do,
Yeah.
not how you do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess,
Great.
you know, the water clerk and I talked about this, we recognize that this is not an SOP. But it does tell customers what's a leak and how they can apply for the leak and whether they qualify, and also sets out the policy that if your leak is not more than double your historic monthly usage, then you cannot apply for a leak. So it has this good information in there that is overall general information.
And I'm not arguing that, I think this is a good policy. I am just suggesting we need to take it one step further and come up with, and the SOP could be very short, even shorter than this, to actually assign tasks to certain class of workers to accomplish this policy. I assume that some of the tasks will be given to the water clerk, and I assume, just looking at this, some of these tasks would have to go to the superintendent of the water.
Or
So,
for his approval of the.
well, no, yeah, and those tasks would be lined out in an SOP. So you're gonna have to have
Right.
an SOP, that's my recommendation. I mean, this is a
Yeah.
great policy.
I agree that, and she was, I believe the water clerk plans to write an SOP.
Okay,
of
just,
how it all gets done, because she, just basically, yes,
Okay.
exactly how it gets done.
so just put that on your advisory duties, Laurel, for the Water Commission, that would be great. This is a good step forward, thanks for you guys, much needed. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Okay. All right, there we go. Ordinance Review Committee, any,
Well, we have Chris, he's got the water plant.
no, Chris said that he is unable to give a report for a variety of reasons. And I said, I gave him authorization. So ORC, nothing, okay?
I think, because Kevin and you are ORC, is there anything?
No, ORC did not meet over the past month. We will be setting a date very soon, and I think the main order of business is going to be the special event definition. And I know we were kind of waiting until your return, Chris, because we knew you had some concerns about that.
Yep.
And I don't know whether you want to attend our meeting or whether you want to present something in writing. You want to? Okay, so
Might bring Len with.
so we'll loop you in. Does anyone else want to be in on that, or
I may submit comments, but
take
please
them
send me in.
written? Okay.
I mean,
Thanks. Parking, Christian?
Okay, parking committee, we don't meet very often, but let me just tell you kind of some of the things going on. I just checked our revenue. The different zones we have 3 zones in Harpers Ferry. We have Potomac Street zone. You'll see different numbers on the signs.
Okay.
So we have 3 zones. That zone is Potomac Street is 1. Then the other one, I think there's 22 spaces there. Then we have the other 2 zones. One is Washington, pretty much all the way to Town Hall. And then the third one is Store Place Way. Store College Place Way, okay. Talk about a long one. So those are the 3, and that's the least, it's the smallest zone we have. But the Potomac Street, just so you're aware, generates 66% of our revenue. 2/3 of our revenue is driven by that one street. So it is very important that we don't give any spots up to anybody. We don't, this is an important revenue stream for the town. Potomac Street. So I think we gotta reline it, we gotta take care of it, we gotta make sure. And all the signs have been replaced. I think you've seen, we have the new green, black.
Yeah, they look great.
Yeah, they look good, I think, too. Also, our revenue in April's back up to more of a normal month, and so hopefully we'll have record months in May and June, I hope. So that's our hope. Also, I'll be working with Larry to, we're gonna work on the mailboxes and start doing some movement. The first one is going to be at the Women's Club. There's 3 boxes sitting there. We're gonna move them down a little bit and put new poles in, or if the existing poles fine, we'll leave that. But we're gonna move them over, we're gonna paint them black, and they'll look nice, and we'll have a uniform height, uniform distance between each other. We're gonna see how that project starts, how it works, and then we'll start working with the other cluster, not cluster, but the other groups of boxes of 10. And we're gonna move some signs, so we're gonna try to get a few more parking spots. We're hoping up to 5 by the end of the year.
Great.
Question, are we still trying to hire a parking attendant, or are we just going to continue to depend upon the police?
We have indicated we are going to hire a parking attendant.
Okay.
It's out.
Yeah, I have discussed that with Chief Brown.
Yeah.
And it's his responsibility to get with our financial officer to make sure that the budget will sustain it. And it's his responsibility to do the recruiting. He has an individual that is interested. So the ball's really in the chief's court.
Okay. Thank you.
And by the way, if you ever hear of any parking issues or something, Melissa here makes sure that the parking committee gets them, I assure you. So, but if you hear of anything, let me know, and I'll try to field them quickly. And if I can't do it, then we're going to do it with our group in the meeting.
Okay. Thanks, Christian. Chris, planning?
Yeah, several things going on with planning. We had an April 19th meeting, full attendance, and on the comprehensive plan, the commission voted to rescind the previously established comprehensive plan committee.
What was the vote on that?
That was 5-2. And then we continued, we had a little discussion about issues we'd like to see addressed in the comprehensive plan revision. And several ideas came up that were interesting and I think might merit attention from as we go forward. Some of the things mentioned were renewable energy in town, increasing the percentage of resident occupied homes, affordable housing, and more. So, I think one of the things we'll want to do is put out, call for ideas, concerns in town that will, that people would like to see better addressed. All members of the commission were tasked with reviewing town ordinance the ordinance's permit process. This is a follow-up on our meeting last month with the chairs of the commissions. And we're going to try to use the drafts that we produced to produce a flow chart that Planning Commission agrees on, and then we'll send that on to the BZA and to HLC and others for their input. And hopefully then last step would be town council to make that official.
So this will be a flow chart that will assist both government and residents through the permitting process?
Exactly.
Great.
Yeah. And nothing new. It will follow right from the ordinances, but hopefully make it a little bit user-friendly and understandable, especially from the public's view. And we have 2 pending permit applications that are involving the alteration of the right-of-way. Both of those involve use of materials that merited a look at by HLC, so those will be on our May agenda. And then the last thing, at the meeting, Paul Thomas has volunteered to represent the Planning Commission on the Stormwater Study Task Force.
Great.
Not directly under the Planning Commission's purview, but I wanted to mention some, there's been quite a bit going on with the Armory Canal Trail. Over the past month, there was a West Virginia Department of Highways engineer here who surveyed the corridor. Matt Mullinax from Region 9 and I were with him most of that time. And then I also walked the corridor with National Park staff, including Andrew Lee and Darlene, the park archaeologist, and learned quite a bit from that. One of the things that Department of Highways has told us is that we are going to have to document the town's right-of-way through that corridor. So I'm going to need to be spending maybe a little time with the town lawyer and probably county planning and continue talks with Andrew Lee about how exactly we do that. The boundaries, after talking with Andrew Lee also, the boundaries of that corridor are not as clear-cut as I expected they were. But if we can at least find the width of the right-of-way, that should get us going. And then I also took a third walk on the corridor with Christy and Robert from the tree committee. And we had an eye out for hazardous trees that needed to be taken care of before work begins. And work is probably not going to begin for several months, probably until 2023. But the good news was that most of the problems were small, maybe even volunteer jobs. But there were 3 or 4 pretty major dead trees that are going to be problematic to get work going. So there'll be some challenges getting Antietam or whoever we hire to take care of that out there on that corridor. But anyway, so that's what's been going on with Armory Canal.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Landmarks, is Guy on? Okay.
Seeing that on the liaison, let me talk to it just a little bit. I was not at the last Historic Landmarks Commission meeting out of the country, but I know one of the things that's come across that I saw that we got involved in with Historic Landmarks is the project on 571 Henry Clay Street. And I'm not going to go into what the BZA's made a decision. I'm not going to say what it is. It's their purview to put that out before I say anything. But I did want to note that I think it was a learning thing, and I'm going to make sure we get it on our agenda for next week for the Historic Landmarks. I think we have a process. We're going to have to change up kind of what we do as we're advisory. And I think we were somewhat operating in the old mode, and we were actually had our feet in both camps, and so I think we need to move all the way over to advisory. And I had some ideas. For instance, I'm just going to run through them real quick. Endeavor to educate our ordinance compliance officer, so this officer, Kevin Hamilton, can make decisions. Doesn't need to see historic landmarks on a lot of things. He can just make the decision on the materials. That's what we're really concerned about, is materials at HLC. Also, I think HLC needs to review the Appendix A guidelines and standards and go through it line by line and update it. I think we kind of got caught on this retaining wall. I don't think it was very clear in there. And I have no problem with the decisions that were made by planning and the town council or BZA. I think they all made them proper and good decisions based on Appendix A. But I think the Appendix A is where Historic Landmarks is responsible to make sure that it's up to date and fits Harpersburg. okay? We're gonna make sure the OCO is invited to all of our meetings. I don't think that's ever happened before. Also, I think we need to have quick meetings for approvals. I'm talking special meetings, do it on Zoom, do it quick. It is terrible to leave our residents sitting 4, 6, 8 weeks or longer without, you're waiting on maybe HLC's hanging it up.
Especially when contractors, it's so tight to get that
Correct.
time.
So I'm gonna be bringing that up in the meeting, okay? Also, we wanna educate BZA on a lot of the appendix issues so that they have a better feel for it, so they can make decisions pretty much without us, okay? It'd be an extension of HLC.
I wonder if a flow chart process, the way Chris is putting together, might be a helpful tool.
Yes, I think that would be very valuable. I think, so we need, what else? I said, we also need to develop, find and report unpermitted building improvements. So we need to work with OCO to find these. This is a problem in town. We have a lot of projects that are moving with no permits. So that's an issue that may be beyond HLC. But, and the other being, we want to also make sure that people, when they say they're going to do something on that permit, that they actually do. We're seeing some discrepancies.
Say that again?
Some of the permits are, they'll say they're gonna do A, but then they do B.
Oh, so not that they don't carry through, but that they vary it.
You know, they varied it on us.
I'm shocked at that.
Yeah. Also, we've been talking about it for almost a year. We want to develop and mail a welcome cover letter to all new residents with a copy of Appendix A and the Harpers Ferry permit forms for new residents. And hopefully within 1 month of move-in date. We want to get in front of this. We are falling behind because people don't know. They're not aware. I think they really would like to do it, but we have not communicated as well as we could. So these are just some of the things. So HLC can be more useful to Harpers Ferry residents.
I imagine it'll be a challenge, like if someone has purchased a property but maybe has not moved in communicating with whomever the new owners are.
Yeah, and we just, it's communication, that's what's, I think, missing.
Yeah, all sounds good, Christian. On a couple of specifics, I have not received confirmation from the chair that the two right-of-way things before planning are going to be on HLC's agenda next week. I'd like to make sure that they are, so that I could maybe call him or you.
Maybe you have already. You know, I'm starting to get way more communication. I'm still under my Gmail for HLC, but I work pretty much in the town Harpers Ferry website, Harpers Ferry email. So sometimes it's going into my two systems, and it's a little, confusing. So okay, I'll get on it. I'll make sure. But send it to. If you could just send it to me again, and I know you sent it probably to Guy, but.
Yeah.
Send it to, like I also noticed that the BZA sent something to HLC, and one of our members is not on that list. So this.
BZA sent it to.
They sent it to the HLC, and one of our HLC members.
HLC has an official group, so that.
But probably used it as individual
Okay, so then
addresses.
then there's nothing we can do about that.
Right, but I went through the list. No, you can't. It's not.
I just wanna make sure it wasn't.
It wasn't administration Harpers Ferry.
Okay, all right.
Just filling you.
Okay. Number 5, organizations. Chris, you had something real quick?
Yeah, well, I just wanted to thank Harpers Ferry for its support of the Flip Flop Festival, April 23rd and 24th. It was a big success. By my count, I think we brought in about 80 long-distance hikers for the workshops. Most of those were at the the evening event at the barn, and many showed up the next morning for pancakes. Laurel was our breakfast chair, and we had a lot of volunteers from the town foundation on that. So it was just a very nice community event that, I think helps put us on the map as a starting place for AT through hikers, which is a significant thing for our little town. And the other thing I wanted to report for Trail in Town Alliance is that it has finally made official the MOU from West Virginia Department of Natural Resources to develop trails in Woodpecker Woods, which involves a little bit of Harper's Ferry property, county property, and Bolivar, I believe some Bolivar property as well.
Yes.
So anyway, that's exciting, and I think work is going to begin on that soon. So I know we've talked in the past about the Ridge Street connector, and that'll be one of the next things on our agenda to get worked out.
Thanks, Chris. Any other reports?
And I want to add that Chris was the chief pancake maker.
Oh, really? Yeah. All right. Unfinished business.
10 years of B&B gave me lots of practice.
Do it in your sleep, literally.
Liquid conviction.
All right, number 7, new business, discussion action regarding endorsing a proclamation concerning Jefferson County Relay for Life. I understand this occurs every year. We got a request from Heather Fallible, I'm assuming, with a Relay for Life event. She's the lead for that for the American Cancer Society. You should have a copy of the proclamation. I'm proposing that you allow me to endorse this on behalf of the town. So I'll entertain a motion.
I so move.
Do I have a second on the motion? Second from, who's this? Oh, Storm, I'm sorry. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor of the motion? Thanks. Okay, I will endorse that tomorrow.
Are they gonna actually run through the town here?
I don't know.
I just wondered about it.
Yeah, I don't
It don't
know.
make any difference, but
Yeah. I don't know.
my second wife years ago went on it, and it was quite a emotional event. If it's the same one, it was the American Cancer Society.
Yeah.
Relay for Life. This is an old event. They've been doing
Yeah,
it for
sadly.
decades and
All
decades.
of our lives have been touched in one way or another by cancer. So
Yeah.
it's great to support.
Terrible.
7B, discussion action regarding endorsement of West
I'm
Virginia's.
sorry, did we vote on that? Did it fly by?
I thought we did.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
We did.
Yeah, we're moving.
Yeah, we're
All right,
hopping along.
Doug,
And it was unanimous.
B, discussion action regarding endorsement of West Virginia First Memorandum of Understanding and West Virginia Local Government Election and Release Form related to opioid-related claims and settlement agreement. Now, what this is all about is that, as we all know, unfortunately, West Virginia is the epicenter for opioid addiction, opioid, everything. And the AG for the state of West Virginia, Patrick Morrissey, they've been involved in this opioid crisis for years. Courts, there has been a settlement reached with, I believe, 2 ENDO, ENDO, and PAR, West Virginia statewide opioid settlement agreement. I got 70 or 100 pages of it here if you want to read the agreement. I believe the settlement with the state of West Virginia by these 2 companies is somewhere, I want to say $24 or $27 million. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to authorize my signature to agree to the memorandum of understanding regarding this and to agree to a release form. Now, what this means is And I have spoken with Ken Sire, Mr. Sire, at length on this, and they got the same thing in Martinsburg. All municipalities throughout the state of West Virginia received this. And he wholeheartedly wants us to endorse this. If we don't endorse it, then there's a chance that we will not be included in receiving funds. Now, I will tell you that the allocation to municipalities, unfortunately, is based on population and based on opioid crisis thereof. Now, we don't have, knock on wood, opioid issues, severe in Harpers Ferry, and we have one of the smallest municipalities. So there are formulas in here for municipalities. I forget what our percentage is. Yeah, it's .00086. But Debbie computed it to be somewhere around 20K. Okay, so I am asking the council to allow me to, we have to endorse both of these, the MOU and the election and release form that you have. And then I will submit this back to the AG, to the Attorney General for West Virginia. And then we will then wait for, hopefully, the check to arrive.
And just to understand what it means, like, this says that if we're part of the settlement, if later we say, well, wait a second, one of these pharmaceutical companies caused this tremendous damage in our town, we've signed that away. But given how it was presented and the likelihood of that, it does not seem like a wise choice to try to freelance it.
Yeah,
And I know this is not the evening for it, but I'd like that to go to a special clause. Yes.
Well, it's restricted.
Like what?
well, it's, for us, it's restricted, just happen to have that,
Okay.
because I knew that question was coming up. Most of the categories deal with, pregnancies, if you're pregnant with opioid addiction, those kinds of things. Health, education, those in custody, providing them tools to break the habit, this, that, or the other. We really don't have any of that, but one of the categories is law enforcement. And it's category HI, it's category I, and it says funding for law enforcement efforts to curtail the sale, distribution, promotion, or use of opioids and other drugs to reduce the oversupply of illicit and illicit opioids, including regional jail fees. Ensure appropriate resources for law enforcement to engage in enforcement and possess adequate equipment, tools, and manpower to address the complexity of opioid problems. Those are the only categories that we can spend the money for.
I'm happy they do that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't go in our general fund.
Right, does not. So Chair will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the endorsement of the West Virginia local government election and release form, and the West Virginia memorandum of understanding form.
Thank you. Second on the motion? Second from Chris, discussion on the motion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Okay. Okay. The letter for, I have made some changes on that, Chris. You should have the updated letter in your packet, as I am searching desperately.
I think Verlissa sent out the final draft today, or someone did. It was Pat, okay. Yeah, I liked that
Okay.
final draft very much.
I thought I had it with me.
Yeah, I read it.
But you read it, you know what's in it. It's basically endorsing for the public, it's endorsed. Chris, let me turn it over to you. It's, the letter endorses what, Chris?
Well, after many years of our lobbying and working towards progress to get a ramp on the C&O side of the Byron Bridge, to make our town more accessible for bicyclists coming off the C&O and vice versa. People leaving Harper's Ferry to get into Maryland. The C&O National Historical Park has finally selected a design. They've determined that this is one of their priorities over the next few years, and they are applying to the state of Maryland for a TAP grant, Transportation Alternatives. And so we were asked by Canal Towns, which we are a part of, to provide letters of support to be sent to the superintendent of the C&O that she can use in that application. And so Canal Trust presented us a draft, and the mayor and I have skewed that a little bit, since Harper's Ferry is kind of one of the prime places to benefit from this ramp. So that's what you hopefully have had a chance to read. And I would like to make that, I would move to make that letter official for the town of Harper's Ferry.
Thanks. So I have a second on the motion, second from Christian. A discussion on the motion. All those in favor of the motion? Okay, great. Thanks, Christian. Thanks, Chris. Okay, item 7, D, E, F. All three of these items, I am proposing that we go into executive session, and I will cite West Virginia Code as an exception to the Open Meetings Act to discuss these three items as an exception under West Virginia Code 69A-4, paren B, paren 2, paren capital A, to go into executive session to discuss matters arising from the appointment, employment, retirement, promotion, transfer, demotion, discipline, resignation, discharge, dismissal, or compensation of a public officer or employee.
Second.
I need a motion first.
Oh, I so moved.
Okay, do I have a second on the motion? Christian, any discussion on the motion to go into executive session? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? We are now in executive session at 8:32 PM, May 9th. Okay, it's 9:30 PM. We are back into regular session. We're on agenda item 7D as in David, discussion and action regarding employee salary adjustment.
So I'd like to make a motion that we approve for Ryan Slusher, a water department employee, a $2 an hour raise for the period of 6 months, which is for the one filter operation effective today.
We have a second on the motion. We have a second from Chris. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion?
Very good.
Agenda item 7F, agenda item 7E is in Edward, discussion action regarding temporary new hire for water department.
I move to offer contract employment to Tom Hall for up to 4 months at $30 an hour plus $15 a day for gas, working a minimum of 2 10-hour shifts per week, pending consideration of references.
Second on the motion. We have a second from Christian. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Thank you. Item 7F is in Frank, no action there. The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn from Chris. Do I have a second? Second from Christian. Discussion to adjourn. Hearing none. All those in favor of adjourn? 7-0 at 9:32 PM.